Video, go.
As a parent, you're already splitting your mind 100 ways, thinking about your kids. And if you're thinking about their safety, that takes over everything else. I remember sitting in the parking lot every day crying and wondering, am I going to get to kiss my children at the end of this day?
We're here to talk to legislators and build those relationships to show that you have communities you need to keep safe. The Jewish community is part of your responsibility. We want to feel safe, we want to feel secure, and we want to feel respected.
If you get to know each other, you know the humanity in them. You look their eyes, you share the meal together, then you build trust. Prejudices are kind of melting. And then in hard times, we are together as a community.
Security measures go a long way to making us feel safe, being outwardly Jewish here in our community.
Please welcome Cabinet's Public Affairs co-chairs, Emily Eisenberg and Orel Shoham.
Good morning. My name is Emily Eisenberg, and I'm a second year from Tampa.
And I'm Orel Shoham, and I'm a third year from Houston. Together, we have the privilege of serving as Cabinet's Public Affairs co-chairs. Emily and I had the opportunity to join over 80 of our Hevrei among 400 leaders across the Federation systems and the Jewish community in Washington, D.C. this past May for the security fly-in. It was inspiring to see so many show up for our community and to build their skills as advocates. For those who haven't had the chance to advocate with Jewish Federation in D.C. before, especially to our new members, don't worry. There'll be at least 2 opportunities over the next year, including one in November in conjunction with the General Assembly.
While we were in DC in May, we had the incredible moment of being on Capitol Hill as the Jewish American Security Act, or JASA, was introduced in Congress. This vital piece of legislation, spearheaded by Jewish federations and our partners, is the most comprehensive bill to date addressing the crisis of Jewish communal security. It authorizes $1 billion annually for the Nonprofit Security Grant Program and takes steps to streamline and modernize that program. It enhances state and local law enforcement support, creates greater transparency for online hate speech, and improves protections for Jewish students. As of right now, we have 54 co-sponsors in the House and 14 in the Senate, split evenly across the parties.
This is where we come in. We need your activism. We need your voices. We need you to build relationships with your elected officials, share your stories, and make the case that protecting Jewish communities is not partisan and non-negotiable. The cost of protecting the Jewish community across North America is nearly $800 million a year, and it's only growing. The government has a responsibility to do more. We just learned that in 2025, only 27% of applications for the Nonprofit Security Program received funding. This is a stark reminder that we must draw the attention of our government at all levels across the US and Canada to the critical and urgent need to protect our Jewish communities.
No Jewish family should ever wonder whether it's safe to walk into a synagogue, a school, or a community center. Security is the foundation upon which we build a flourishing Jewish life, giving us the safety we need to lean into building programs, experiences, and joy that will lift up our communities in North America and beyond. Advocating for our community is not always easy. Being in challenging conversations and relationships carries weight, meaning, and impact. Over the next hour, you'll experience a taste of how Jewish leadership is also civic leadership, here in North America in our local communities and in our relationship with Israel. We will start with Frontline and the work to strengthen and expand our ability to combat anti-Semitism in our local communities. Please join us in welcoming Jewish Federation's Executive Vice President, Shira Hutt.
That Jewish communities can flourish proudly and safely. That responsibility has never been more important than it is today. Over the past few years, we've witnessed a troubling rise of anti-Semitism with growing threats targeting Jewish communities. But while these threats have increased, so has our response. The Federation system has not stood still. We've built, invested, innovated, and are continuing to work together to address these growing challenges. About 5 years ago, we launched Live Secure with a bold vision that every Jewish community, regardless of its size, should have the expertise, infrastructure, and resources necessary to protect its people and its institutions. Today, because of that collective commitment, community security programs exist across all federations, all 141 federations, and each federation has the ability to help synagogues, schools, JCCs, camps, and all other Jewish institutions become safer every day. Together, we've built a strong foundation, and we will continue to build the security approach needed for today's world. But as that work continues, we also know that physical security alone is not enough. We must also strengthen the civic environments in which Jewish life exists. Anti-Semitism doesn't begin with acts of violence, it begins with words. It begins with normalization. It begins when hatred is ignored, excused, or allowed to spread unchecked through our schools, our workplaces, campuses, local governments, and civic institutions. That's why we recently launched Frontline, an initiative aimed at strengthening the Jewish community's capacity to confront anti-Semitism. Through Frontline, we're ensuring that every federation has the tools, resources, and expertise necessary. This includes infusing our federation system with 100 new dedicated professionals across federations that will focus on deepening the engagement efforts and responding to anti-Semitism locally on the front line. And your partnership with them and all the professionals working on the front line is essential to our success. I am very pleased to welcome our panelists, who I'll introduce in a moment, who are going to join me in this conversation so that we can drill down into what this work looks like on the ground, how we define and reach our goals, and how each of you can play a meaningful role in strengthening civic life back home. Please join me in welcoming our panelists, J.C. Grace, Emily White, and Rabbi Josh Stanton. When the music, if I have to talk for the music to end, or if I'm waiting for the music to end. So welcome. Just to say a word about who each of you are and why I'm so grateful to be in this conversation with you. JC is the president of the Jewish Community Relations Council of Minnesota and the Dakotas. Emily White has a very long title that I want to get right. Emily is joining us from JUF, the Federation in Chicago, where she. There, you know where your crowd is. Emily is the Associate Vice President of Campus Affairs and Student Engagement and the Executive Director of the Israel Education Center, so you're a very, very busy person. And speaking of busy is my colleague, Rabbi Josh Stanton, who is our Associate Vice President of Interfaith and Intergroup Initiatives at JFNA. So thank you to the three of you. We're going to jump in. We have a lot to cover. So let's start by really talking about what are the component parts? What does the work of civic engagement look like today? What are the challenges and opportunities as we think about this work on the front line? We'll start with you, JC.
Sure. So it's great to be here with all of you. I don't know if the microphone's on, but hopefully if it's not, it'll turn on. Thank you. Great. So I think about this as kind of a pre-October 7th and a post-October 7th as we think of Jewish life. Before October 7th, a lot of the work of community relations councils was heavily focused on social justice, on immigration, on voting rights, and all of that continues and has continued. And on top of it, the civic work has been a bit more internally focused since October 7th. And we're spending more time and more resources on fighting anti-Semitism, on educating the public. What is a Jew? What is anti-Semitism? What is anti-Zionism? We are spending a lot more time, energy, resources on security, on advocating for security funding. We are at the legislature. We are at the city councils in a way we didn't used to be, at the school boards. So there's been it's more, and at every level, to advocate for our community and for our needs, to educate people, and it continues.
Absolutely. The to-do list has gotten so much longer, and you, in that list that you just mentioned, you mentioned school boards. So actually, Emily, that's your cue to talk a little bit about your work, everything, right? But I know in particular you spend, I said it in your very long title, time on campus and educational initiatives. So what's happening in the K through 12 space, and what does that work look like today?
Happy to share. So first of all, thank you so much for having me to talk about this. It is, I always say the work is hard, but I actually feel tremendously privileged to be trusted to do the work with the schools. These are our kids. It's the most important work we do, from my perspective. We were lucky to start our campus work, our advocacy work, 30 years ago, practically, at the Federation. Chicago had been doing it a long time and took the lessons from our campus work into the K-12 space about 4.5 years ago, so about early 2022. And really digging in to build relationships across the schools. This is before the conversation had really expanded to K-12. But what we know is what starts on campus doesn't stay there. And all those activists who were the aggressive anti-Israel activists had become teachers and administrators and had moved into the workforce. So we started looking at what the relationships were that we could start forming to protect our youngest students, to help them the most. And I have to tell you, as hard as things can seem and as tough as the headlines are, the K-12 space was desperately waiting for a lifeline. They're ready for help. They are ready for support. The superintendents have been receptive. The principals have been, I'm not saying this is without challenge, just to be clear. The incidents happen. We can't stop all anti-Semitism, no matter how hard we work at it. We can stem the flow and make it unacceptable, though. So we have really worked on all different levels. I have a team that covers incident response with individuals, that covers academic leadership. I have colleagues in the public affairs team at our federation that does electeds. So they deal with the school boards and other officials. And together, we really sort of triangulated the school conversation to do education, to do preparedness, to do incident response. And so it's all coming at the same time. And we've been able to take schools, one, for example, I'll even name a community, which I don't usually do. So Evanston, Illinois is a particularly challenging community for the kinds of politics we deal with. And the superintendent became such an ally. He went from being a school with incidents that were being ignored to now I'm getting 10:30 p.m. texts from him. Did you see what happened in this other community? Do you need help connecting to them? And he's connecting us to other schools. So from real challenge to real partnership, but it's taking the kind of work that JC referred to in terms of showing up for board meetings, showing up at the school board. You don't have to have kids to go to the school board. You don't have to have kids to run for school board. I would say if everyone spends a few hours a month, I guess it's more, scrolling, you can do that at a school board meeting. You can sit there and listen and be in the room, because if you're not at the table, too often we are on the menu, and we want to make sure that there are Jewish voices in every space.
Thank you. Okay, Josh, interfaith, intergroup, go.
So on a good day, American Jews are 2% of the population, and it means that we need friends. And as much as we need to fight anti-Semitism, there are groups out there waiting to be our friends and to work with us. And to name but 3 of the biggest, there are about 65 million Catholics across North America, maybe even more. There are about 70 million Latinos, and there are about 80 million evangelicals. They are waiting for us to figure out how best to be our friends. And the goal of interfaith work and intergroup work is to supercharge advocacy so that we're showing up at the school board with our Hindu friends who feel likewise written out of ethnic studies curricula, so that we are showing up at the State House with our evangelical colleagues who are also worried about nonprofit security grants and keeping themselves safe. There is a world of opportunity. It all happens locally. So if there are ways that you can stand proudly as a Jewish leader, befriending Latino, evangelical, Catholic, Hindu, the list goes on, people, and understanding them as they see themselves and teaching about how you do Jewish in the ways that you do it, that is the first step. And then the second step, recruit a rabbi. They are an under-tapped resource across communities to go out and build bridges. And their synagogues are up the street from a mosque and down the street from a church, and they really need to get to know the other religious leaders in communities.
So on the one hand, we acknowledge that this work has changed dramatically since October 7th. On the other hand, I think it's understandable that there's a healthy dose of skepticism out there around whether or not this work can actually make a difference. And so I'd love to dig into the question of how do we define success and how do we drive towards success? I like to call it, how do we get local wins? What does that mean and how do we do it? You want to start again, JC?
Sure. I mean, I have a couple local examples that I think are instructive. About 2 weeks ago, the St. Paul Water Commission, St. Paul just across the river here, the St. Paul Water Commission was voting to extend its contract with its cybersecurity provider. Happens to be an Israeli company. The experts that the water board had consulted had said, this is the best deal, this is the best product, this is the best service, recommended to continue the contract. Word got out in the community that the vote was coming up, and there was a lot of protest against continuing the contract with the Israeli company because it was an Israeli company. So our community really rallied together, showed up at the board meeting, advocated to the board, best service, best product, best deal. The ethnicity and the national origin of the founders of the company really should be irrelevant, really is irrelevant. And I'm happy to report that because of organizing, the vote passed, the contract was extended. But what is also really important in this context is one of the members of the water board is a member of the Jewish community, is a local mayor of her suburb, got her start in civic leadership through Jewish communal leadership. She was a mayor. She is the mayor of her small suburb. Before that, she was on the school board. Before that, she was with the National Council of Jewish Women locally. So this is a great example of you start small, you build your leadership. You run for office. You're as qualified as anybody to run for office, and then you can have real impact. So that's kind of my best example. And another great example that's happening here locally is the establishment of a Jewish Democratic Caucus, and that is a process. The folks involved in that have been working on it for a year and a half. So a lot of this work takes time and takes energy and takes real kind of stick-to-itiveness, but you got to start somewhere.
In the world of the schools, we get asked a lot how to measure wins. And there are a lot of different philosophies about this. They're incredible organizations doing loud advocacy, doing good work. We have truly unbelievable partners. Our friends from the consulate are here. We work closely with them. Our friends at JFNA work closely. It is essential that we work across organizations, across philosophies, and across disciplines is the first thing. Excuse me. I'm allergic to the whole summer. It's a cultural baggage of being Jewish. Anyway, one of the ways we measure wins is in the number of calls we get. And I realize it's hard to measure a thing that's not happening, but the majority of our work is discrete. So one of the things you'll find, and you can try this yourselves, you will Google my name all day, you'll find I work at JUF, but you will not find articles about the work I have done. You won't find the Evanston story published someplace. And it's because in order to build those trusting relationships, I need to go into the relationship expecting, one, the best of the people I'm working with. I need to assume that they are open to this, that they are ready to be good partners, and then give them the chance to do that. And that means we don't post about it, we're not yelling at them, there's no, I can't believe they allowed this. Half the time when those things come up, the school administration did not yet know what happened. And it's not a failure of structure, it's that usually someone finds out about an incident in community, it becomes very loud, and the school's going, wait, we would take this seriously. But now it's public, it becomes a legal thing, we have a whole other issue. So the number one thing is when you are dealing with the schools in your lives, take a step towards discretion, call them first and say, did you know this happened? Give them the chance to handle it. Because the wins are in the quiet relationships. I know it's old school diplomacy to say go behind the scenes, it will work. For the K-12 space, it works. These are mostly public institutions, though we deal with private as well. None of them want the reputational damage, and all of them are very aware of legislative efforts, educational funding, the kinds of things that affect school districts. They want to nail this. I have had one superintendent be extremely resistant to our outreach, and we are working with 30 school districts across Chicago, including Chicago Public Schools, whose union is headed by an anti-Israel Jewish Voices for Peace member. And we are still making headway, have trained their staff, have gotten them in the room, and have gotten them to come around to including anti-Semitism in their bias training process. The change is possible, but it's in the sort of negative space you see the difference. So recently, a school district in the Chicago suburbs got a new superintendent. This is District 219, which is Niles North and Niles West, if you're familiar. The superintendent, before she even started work, called our office. She called my team and said, hey, I know you've been our long-term partners in this district. What do I need to know? And to me, that's where you can see the wins. The school has expelled students for hate speech against Jews. The school has taken teachers and put them on leave for not appropriately addressing anti-Israel, anti-Zionist, anti-Semitic activity in their classrooms. These are good faith people who want to do it right if we open the doors for them, but it does take working across entities. Involve your elected officials, tell them what you're concerned about. Run for public office. We've just started a program in Chicago called our Civic Leadership Development Program. And it was born of an academic program we did. And the idea is to help members of our community really learn the technical skills for joining public life. It's not always elected. Sometimes it's appointed commissions. It's attending meetings. It's joining museum boards. As much as those don't sound academically themed, having people in those rooms can affect academics because those people are connected to the school districts. So the more that we take those risks and step out into public space in ways you already care about. If the environment's your thing, join the Environmental Commission, but keep an ear open for when the policies are going to start affecting the rest of the community. But the wins are happening. The wins are real, they are happening, they are measurable. Don't take one bad incident to mean the whole thing is over for us. The kids are actually doing all right. They're very proud, they're very Jewish, they're very, very engaged. And I'm sure there are excellent stories in all of your communities that are very similar.
Thank you. Josh.
In the interfaith and intergroup space, we are talking likewise about policy wins. We see this when the California federations work with partners from across religious and cultural communities to increase nonprofit security grant funding at the state level. We see the same happening with the wonderful federation in Seattle. I know Sally is here today. We see the same in southern Maine. We see the same in North and South Carolina. We are seeing policy wins with coalitions made of many different religious and cultural communities. In addition, we are measuring policy changes within those religious communities. Pope Leo, and I say this with no exaggeration, is adjusting his approach to just war theory to include a special exemption for self-defense because of some colleagues in Chicago, Boston, DC, and New York City. When they work with their local cardinals, the Vatican hears about it. When federations in Texas get very close with the leaders of big mega churches in their area who are Southern Baptist. And then the Southern Baptist Convention, the single largest Protestant denomination in the United States, says that anti-Semitism defies the teachings of Jesus. That is a policy win. The list goes on and on. The National Hispanic Christian Leadership Conference, and we're visiting one of their 42,000 churches this afternoon for those who would like a field trip at about 2 o'clock. They have written into their charter that anti-Semitism goes against their teachings, that support for Israel is part of their core belief system. Those are policy wins brought about because of local federations, deep relationships, and enduring change that is possible.
Thank you, and I hope that through our work on Frontline and the activation of everyone here in the room, we're going to get to many, many, many more wins. We need those local wins, which brings me to the last question. You've all touched already on ways that we need volunteer leaders, lay leaders to be part of this work. But I can imagine that there are some sitting out there saying, how do I get started? And so what's your advice for either getting started or going to the next level in this work? Give some guidance.
Sure. So vote. That's
Please.
One.
I would like to second that statement.
Encourage your friends and your family to vote. Do a little bit of research, and you can be the person that your network calls on and says, okay, can I vote? Can I vote in the primary for one party and in the general for another party? If I care about that, can I? How does it work? Who's running, and what do they know, and what issues are important to them, and where do I fit in? You can be that expert without that much work. It's August today. August is when Congress is in recess, which means that your congressperson is likely home in their district this month. When we have our next break, go out, look up their contact info, email, call your congressperson's local office, and schedule a meeting. And in that meeting, you can just get to know them. They're humans, right? They work for you, they represent you. They'll ask you what you care about, and you can tell them, but it's really a relationship opportunity. And to me, all of this work, everything we're talking about, is all about building relationships with your school board. Show up to your city council meetings, even if they're not talking about a Jewish-related issue. Build the relationship, show that you care, and show up. And I mean, that's really kind of the number one thing is that you start building relationship now, and just like you plant seeds now for a tree that grows and blooms in the future, the same is true with this kind of work as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely. In the world of how to be involved in education, again, you do not have to have children in the schools to attend and participate in school board meetings. I cannot overstate this. The number of meetings that happen with no one in attendance would blow your mind. Almost every school board meeting is happening with no one in the room. It's the people that were elected and no one looks up. Most school boards have vacancies, and even the ones that don't, it's like 3 people running for 4 seats in the next election. It's going to be fine. I highly recommend taking that option if you have the time in the month, and frankly, it's not that much time. More than that, tell the people in your life that you're Jewish. I realize that's a funny thing to say, especially to a room of leaders, and people are so dedicated like you are. So often, people assume that the people in our lives will know we care Jewishly, will know that Judaism matters to us in an educational setting or in other contexts. Just tell them, mention it in passing. Ask your friends who, if we're talking K-12, who have kids in schools, who may be sending kids in schools, if you have children yourself, let your parent friends know, man, I'm really worried about my kids as Jews in the school district. And they say, what do you mean? They may not realize your district is a place you're concerned about. Even with my job, I tell them, I've got small children, I tell my friends who are parents, look, this thing is happening that really worries me. This person's on the ballot who really worries me. All of a sudden, I have friends and allies who are taking this stuff seriously, who are speaking out, who are making sure that if I'm not in the room, they are. And I cannot overstate what JC said. Please vote, show up and vote, turn out, be there, be in the rooms where decisions are made. If you have a state finance pension board, you can be appointed to that. There were jokes earlier from the governor or the mayor about how many lawyers are here. There are numerous appointed commissions in every state. There you have a state education board. You have state educational standards that are set. You are welcome to attend and join any of those meetings and speak up. Coordinating with your federation, with the other leaders in your networks who are doing this work, will get you talking points. You'll get on the same page. You'll know what the asks are. But every one of you can actually make those differences. A lot of doors that I've walked through professionally have been opened by lay leaders, and the partnership is absolutely essential.
We've got to have more than transactional relationships. We need to actually know deeply what matters to other people. Before I came here, I was spending time with the head of interfaith for the Latter-day Saints, and he didn't want to talk about what was going on in the wider world. He wanted to talk about the fact that he was going through a divorce and was brokenhearted, and that he was seeing his kids suffer. That's the kind of relational showing up that we need. And so if there are ways that you can really be a part of people's lives in deep, enduring fashions, that is the name of the game. An example of what JFNA has done more broadly, we asked our friends at the National Hispanic Christian Leadership Conference, this large evangelical Latino coalition, we said, what do you need at this particular moment? And they said there's this bipartisan piece of legislation around immigration. It's called the Dignity Act. We would love it if you gave it a close read and if you supported it. And because we have such relationship-focused leadership in our CEO, in our executive vice president, and in our board, we managed to sign on to it as a way of showing solidarity and care about issues that matter for our partner communities. So it is about showing up. It is about understanding. It is about true friendship, so that when we need to make an ask, people already understand that it is about so much more than just the transaction itself. It is about the human connection.
If I can second what Josh has just said, in the schools, this is everything. When you want something from a school district, they're going to look and see if you have been there for them along the way. They want to know that you've been with the district, you haven't just been mad, you've shown up for when they needed a referendum to repair the building. Were you part of that? Were you there for the district? When the schools needed funding, when there was a backpack drive for back to school. The more they get to know you as people, the more they'll care about you as people, and the more you'll understand the district and the pressures they're under, and have empathy for what they're going through. So the same works very, very strongly in academics as well.
And in all other settings. I mean, you know, you put the phone aside and you go and have a one-on-one and you know, build real relationships. That's where it's at.
Thank you. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and for, as you said, showing up. We're going to actually end this conversation with an opportunity for you right now to get activated. I think there's a slide that's going to go on the screen. These are two initiatives that are part of our frontline work. And I encourage you, I invite you to take out your phones and actually click on these, or whatever you do with the scan the QR codes. Let me say a word about each of these. Project Halo is our strategic messaging hub. If you may have met my colleague, Matt Berger, who's here. If not, please find him or go to one of his sessions. But through Project Halo, we are creating rapid response messaging to equip you with the knowledge and the know-how to be able to talk about the issues of the day. I mean, not a day goes by where there isn't something happening in the world or an incident that you need to be familiar with and you need to be able to talk about with knowledge, comfort, and oftentimes, as you heard, also use the relationships that you're now gonna build or deepen and make sure that others know about these challenges as well. So Project Halo, get on that list, please. And then the other is One Mitzvah a Day, which is a really, really beautiful initiative that we were grateful to bring into the Jewish Federations of North America earlier this calendar year. And through One Mitzvah a Day, on a daily basis, you can sign up to receive either a text message or an email, or both if you need reminders, that give you an opportunity to offer thanks to an elected official, it could be an owner of a corporation, or today's mitzvah is actually to thank Boy George for his new song and for doubling down on trying to get that song out there into the world. But it's a way for us to show appreciation to those who stand with the Jewish community and stand with Israel. And you know what? It also feels good and reminds us that we're not alone, which is also very much the theme of what we heard here. So thank you, and thanks to all of you for getting activated and joining us in this work.
Thank you, Shira.
Welcome the Consul General of Israel to the Midwest, Elad Strohmeyer, in conversation with Cabinet's Israel and Overseas Chair, Damara Markowitz.
Over the past year, we've watched Israel navigate extraordinary challenges on the battlefield, in diplomacy, and in its relationships with Jewish communities around the world. Helping strengthen those relationships is someone who has spent almost a year representing Israel across the American Midwest, building connections with Jewish communities like ours, and helping tell Israel's story during one of the most consequential periods in the country's history. Please join me in welcoming Consul General of Israel to the Midwest, Mr. Elad Strohmeyer. In your current role, you've met Jewish communities of every size and character across the Midwest. As you've built these relationships, what has surprised you most, and what have they taught you about the importance of the Israel-diaspora relationship?
First of all, thank you. It's good to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I just want to give a shout out. I saw the Chicago group over there. I based in Chicago, so Shalom Chicago, but all the Midwest. So I hope that we get to interact with everyone here from the Midwest, Illinois. I cover Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, of course, Iowa, Nebraska, and I don't know if there's anyone here from the Dakotas. I hope there is, but that's my jurisdiction. And also a shout out to my previous posting, Washington, D.C., and Philadelphia. So these were my previous posting. But to your question, as you can see, I've interacted with many Jewish communities throughout my career, but I actually want to give a story before joining the Foreign Service. I was myself a shaliach in summer camps of the Jewish Agency, and I remember my first summer back in 2002 as a shaliach, and I went there, and what struck me about the American Jewish community was actually 4th of July. Because in Jewish summer camp, you know, every Shabbat there is song session, Israeli dancing, and Israel and Jewish culture is very much alive. And then 4th of July was a carnival day. It was my first 4th of July experiencing carnival and fireworks and everything. And at the end, we had a song session with folk songs and American songs. And it was my first song session, not singing all these Israeli songs. And then at the end of the song session, at the end of 4th of July, your Independence Day, the song leader said, and we're going to conclude our 4th of July with singing the anthem of another country that we love dearly and that we care so much about. And we concluded the 4th of July with Hatikva. I was in tears of emotion, and it really opened my eyes to understand the connection of the Jewish community in the United States to Israel. And Hatikva is not just the Israeli anthem, it's our anthem. It talks about the hope of the Jewish people to come back to our ancestral homeland. And that's what I learned about the communities here. So I think that today, a year already in my role in the Midwest and 17 years representing Israel in Philadelphia, Washington, and now Chicago, I'm not surprised anymore because I know how much you care deeply And I think we see that in the people in the room, that you took the time to come here and advocate for your communities, our community, and our shared goal, because eventually we're one people. Jews in Israel, Jews here, and it unites us. And I think that's the strength of being a leader in a community.
Beautifully said. You were addressing a room full of committed young Jews who are rising in their leadership roles over these 5 years in cabinet. Looking back on your career path so far, what experiences or people have shaped the leader that you've become?
You know, people think of like the big moments that inspired them. I'm looking at the small moments that made a difference, because we all want to really have an impact. But it's the small meetings that you meet with someone in your career that really change their opinion. And it's the small conversations. You had a conversation earlier about the schools and colleges and the challenges that we have. Emily talked about the schools. So for me, when I meet with students, when I meet with non-Jewish students and I talk to them and I open their eyes, I might not necessarily change their opinion fully, but I just open their eyes to a different perspective. These are the most impactful moments that I had. I think also if we look at the bigger moments, it's when change is happening. I'm going to go back again to my career. I think the Abraham Accords was a game changer. I was in Washington, D.C. during the Abraham Accords. I was then dealing the media. And I remember being there and telling the story and bringing the story of a changing Middle East to the media. Really impacted me. And then since October 7th, with all the challenges that we're facing, we've seen that the Abraham Accords are still strong, and we need to tell these positive stories. You know, it's easy to go and talk about the challenges that we're facing. And trust me, I do that a lot. And I'm here 1 year already in this current role, and I see a different America, that it's not the one that I remembered from all my previous postings here. And yet, even though it's easy to talk about these challenges, let's focus on also the positive things, because eventually we want to inspire people. And we need to ask ourselves as leaders, all of us, how do we want to inspire? Inspire by fear or inspire by positive examples, by leading a positive life and telling a positive story? And I believe in that, in the positive things. And that's what I'm trying to do as Consul General of Israel to the Midwest, to tell a positive story about Israel. Again, God knows there are many challenges and many bad things that we can talk about. But let's talk about the positive, why we care. I think the challenges that we're facing today, especially if we talk about young Jewish leadership and young Jewish people that are disconnecting themselves from Israel, it's because they don't have these positive stories. They hear only the negative, or they're being said, you need to love Israel. Okay, why do I need to love Israel? What's positive? What's in it for me? So my maybe message to you is each and one of you need to ask, why do you care? What about Israel makes you passionate? And then tell that positive story to everybody else.
Well, speaking of positivity, one of the things that makes Israel unique is the diversity of the people who call it home. As an openly LGBTQ+ Israeli representing your country during a time of both rising anti-Semitism and intense scrutiny, has your own identity shaped the way you approach this role or the conversations that you have with people?
You know, of course the answer is yes, but it's also no. Yes, it's complicated. It's part of who I am. It's part of my identity. I came out in my mid-20s before I joined the Foreign Service. So I joined the Foreign Service as an openly gay diplomat, and it was always part of my identity. It's not my only identity. It's not necessarily even my main identity. It's just part of the identities that I carry. As Jewish, as Israeli, as a gay man, that's part of who I am, and these are the stories that I'm telling. And I think eventually, every one of us needs to tell the story of who we are and bring that strength to the table. I believe when we talk about Israel, going back to my previous answer, why Israel and the positive story, it's to talk about the diversity of Israel. And LGBTQ, it's one of the diversity elements of Israel, and that's one that is easy for me to talk about because that's my community, that's my experiences. I also believe in speaking about it honestly and not paint a pink picture that may be misleading and not accurate to reality. We need to tell the full story the challenges, the good, what has been achieved, and through that, highlight all the people who are working so hard to make my society, my community, our LGBT community much stronger and more inclusive. But I believe that eventually people connect to people and they connect through relationships, and that's what's important, and this is the story that I'm telling, part of my LGBTQ identity.
Thank you. The retreat here focuses on leadership and Jewish peoplehood. What's one hope that you have for the leaders gathered in this room and for the role that they'll play in strengthening the relationship between Israel and Jewish communities around the world?
I have many hopes, so no pressure. I'll start with one that is very heartwarming for me to see in this room. I do this a lot. I speak in many events, whether I give a speech on a podium, I do an interview, small intimate gatherings, big gatherings. I do that a lot. And I'm always asked, what can we do? What can we do more for Israel, for our community? The answer that I usually give the people in the room is, please, 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 to the next meeting, bring your kids and grandkids, because the average age is so high, and young people are not involved. Now here I'm preaching to the choir, and that's what's so fun about it. So my message to you, keep up being involved and bring your friends, not your grandkids, because you don't have them yet, but get your kids involved. I know that there are also people with kids here, and get your friends and neighbors. We need young people to be involved, because that's the challenge that we're seeing with the people who are active today. We need more young leaders all the time. And yes, it's a lot of pressure, but again, you just heard, tell people that you're Jewish, tell people about your concern. I think Emily just said that in the panel. Tell them why you care, and harness them as well to your activism. And again, sorry, I forgot the name, but also in the panel, one of the panelists said that you need to address also the concerns of the other people, the other communities. And I remember that when I was posted in Philadelphia and we covered Ohio at the time, we worked a lot with the Ohio State University and the Jewish students there, and they created great relationship with none other, the Macedonian students on campus. Sounds very insignificant, but this group of students came to every program that the Jewish students ran, because they stood up for one another. So I think as leaders, interact, engage, listen to the others. One of the pains that our community had, and especially I say that as a liberal LGBTQ Israeli, is that we felt deserted after October 7th, that we stood up with so many communities throughout our history, and now in our moment of need, they didn't stand up with us. It's true, and I'm mad. I can even be furious at moments, but as I said, madness doesn't take us anywhere. We need to take positive action. So keep up standing for what you believe, for the causes you believe, and try to harness them to what you believe, and do that with your friends and with the younger generation. And then one more thing, and I think that's very important, and then, again, I know I'm preaching to the choir, to the people here in the room, but visit Israel. It's so important to come to Israel, especially now, especially when it's difficult to get flights, and we don't know if tomorrow there's going to be another Iranian attack or not, and there's a lot of uncertainty. Visiting Israel is important because, A, it shows the moral support. We really appreciate when we see people coming. I remember that after I was in Israel during the time after October 7 and in October 7. I remember every time we saw a delegation coming, we were so moved by that support. It's also important to the Israeli economy that is struggling with lack of tourism right now, the tourism economy, I mean, so that will be important. But also there's nothing like visiting Israel to understand the country. Speaking to Israelis, hearing different perspectives, because you know you're going to meet 3 Israelis, you're going to have 10 opinions. That's part of who we are. Yeah, it's worse than you guys. You have like 3 Jews, it's 5 opinions. Israeli, it's going to be 10. So meet with Israelis, hear them out, learn about this perspective, and try and bring your friends, even your non-Jewish friends. And I'm gonna do a promotion right now, and feel free to contact me or my team afterwards. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we're doing a project in mid-November, sending young emerging leaders to Israel. So anyone who's interested, the only provision is that it needs to be people who have never been to Israel. okay? So I know maybe here in this room we don't have any applicants, but if you have friends, whether they're Jewish or not Jewish, that have never been to Israel, and you think they can learn and benefit from that, please talk to us, and because we're going to send around 250. We're leasing an airplane, and everybody's flying together from New York, 5 days. All the expenses are covered by us to people who are emerging leaders in their communities, right the age group of this group, mid-20s to mid-40s, who have never been to Israel. I think this is the most important thing, and bring your friends to whatever way you're going to Israel. That's very effective.
Thank you for sharing the opportunity, and also thank you for calling us young. The mayor did not think we were young earlier, so that's really nice to hear.
You have to be young. I'm 45. If you're not young, then I'm not young. So we're young.
We're all young.
That's what we are. We're young.
Elad, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing not only your insights, but also your personal journey and your vision for the relationship between Israel and Jewish communities across the world. Your reflections remind us that the bond between Israel and the diaspora isn't something that we can take for granted. It's built through relationships, strengthened through shared responsibility, and sustained by leaders who are willing to invest in it. Chevra, please join me in thanking the Consul General for being with us today. We wish him continued success in this important work, and we look forward to strengthening these connections together in the years ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Toda rabah.
Please welcome the President and CEO of the Jewish Federations of North America, Eric Fingerhut.
All right, there we go, we're on. So I'm gonna give you a little tip right here in the middle. I'm gonna be using the screens a lot, so I will not be insulted if you tilt your chair to look at the screen, because you're gonna wanna be able to look. It's great to be with you all. Thank you so much for coming to Minneapolis and for joining us at this important retreat. Now, last night, for those of you who were able to make it, you passed the gavel of leadership from our incredible immediate past chairs, Alex and Scott, to Stephanie and Stephen. Now, like some of you, I was stuck at an airport all day yesterday, in my case in Washington, D.C., so I didn't make it to the passing the gavel. So here's my chance to say, Alex and Scott, kol hakavod, congratulations, thank you. And Stephanie and Stephen, congratulations, and I'm looking forward to working with you. And I want to emphasize that the transmission of leadership from one generation to another, from one set of leaders to another, is in fact an essentially critical Jewish value. This is something that we've known throughout our history, and in fact is emphasized in one of our most fundamental Jewish texts. That is not what I'm looking for. Was that on this screen already? Was that up already? Oh, that was up already, okay. See, I'm learning how to use this. So this is the very first line, the very first, we say, Mishnah, in a text called Pirkei Avot. Some of you know Pirkei Avot, which is also known as Ethics of Our Fathers. And this is a collection of some of the most important sayings and teachings of our sages. This is how it begins. Moses received the Torah at Sinai and transmitted it to Joshua. Joshua to the elders to the prophets, and the prophets to Anshe Knesset HaGadolah, the leaders of the Great Assembly. This is an essential part of our tradition, is the passing down of leadership. Now, I think we're off to a pretty good start at this conference so far. The plenaries, you've had great speakers, great examples. Last night, great role models about leadership transmission. So I want to approach this topic of leadership transition from a little bit different angle. I want us to pay attention for a moment about the history of the leaders, what they've accomplished, the history, the shoulders on which we stand. So now this is not a concentration camp in Europe. Does anybody know what this is? This is a place called Atlit. You know where Atlit is? Anybody been on the road between Tel Aviv and Haifa? If you're on the train or on the road from Tel Aviv to Haifa, you'll pass a little place called Atlit. This is a camp that was organized by the British during the end of the British Mandate. So picture this. You come through World War II, the devastation of the Jews in Europe. The refugees, many of them, are trying to escape and be brought to Palestine, to the Promised Land. And the British, who controlled them at the time, despite the Balfour Declaration in the early 20th century, had passed the White Paper. The White Paper denied the right of Jews, the refugees, the remnants from Europe, to come to Palestine, to come to the Promised Land. Many of them came anyway on boats. And when they were brought in, the British arrested them and put them. This is literally a camp behind barbed wire that was on the coast of the Mediterranean in the post between World War II, the end of World War II, and 1947. But the question is, why do I have this here? The question is, who organized those refugees to come? Who raised the money? Who rented the boats? Who hired the captains? Who tried to run the blockades? Who cared for these refugees in the camp? Who brought food and who brought medicine? And the answer, my friend, is it was the Jewish Agents for Israel, our partners, who ran the blockades and who organized the ships and organized the captains. And it was our partners at the JDC who brought the medicine and the food into Atlit. And it was our Jewish federations of North America, it was the Jewish federations all across who raised the funds and made it possible for the remnants of Europe to come to Palestine, to come to the Promised Land, despite being stuck behind these barbed wires. You know who this is, don't you? Golda Meir. In 1947, the United Nations, in November 1947, the United Nations adopted what we came to call the Partition Plan, right? The Partition Plan ended the British Mandate, called for the end of the British Mandate to end in May of 1948, and divided the land between a Jewish state to be created and an Arab state to be created. And immediately upon the adoption of the resolution in November of 1947, the war began. The Arabs began to attack, and the war began. And the settlements, the Yishuv in Israel, they needed, in what became Israel in May of 1948, needed arms. They needed support. And David Ben-Gurion, who was then the head of the Jewish Agency, before he became the first prime minister of Israel, sent Golda Meir to the United States, to North America, to raise funds. Her first stop was at a conference that today we call the General Assembly of the Jewish Federations. That year was held in Chicago, Illinois, in January of 1948. She walked into that assembly of Jewish federations that explained what was happening in Palestine, soon to be the state of Israel, and raised $25 million. She then went on a tour of Jewish federations. I made the list so I can read it to you, of at least the ones that we know for sure. She then visited, she left Chicago and went to New York and to Boston and to Philadelphia and to Cleveland and to Detroit and to Pittsburgh and St. Louis and Los Angeles, San Francisco, Baltimore, Montreal, Milwaukee, and more, and went back home for a few months and then came back again in May of 1948 and raised $50 million more. The Jewish federations, our predecessors in these roles that we sit in today, raised the money that was needed to provide the arms so that the Jews in Palestine could fight and defend the state of Israel. I'm not even going to ask, let's see, did I pass over one? Okay. I'm not even going to ask you what this one is because I don't think you're going to be able to guess. This is in 1949, 1950, right? Israel was declared in May of 1948. So we're talking about literally the first year of Israel's existence. They're at war with all the nations around them. And what did they do? They launched the largest humanitarian airlift in history, bringing 49,000 Jews from Yemen to Israel, to the nascent state of Israel. 49,000. This operation, called Operation Magic Carpet, who organized it? The JDC, our partners. Who organized the airplanes? the Jewish Agency, our partners. Who raised the funds? You know the answer. The predecessors sitting in your seats right today, the leaders of the Jewish Federation of North America. This one I bet you know. These are Soviet Jews descending the steps, making Aliyah after the gates of the Soviet Union opened, coming almost 1 million in number, brought to Israel and many to other places around North America and around the world. By who? By the Jewish Agency, our partners. By the JDC, who helped them with food and medicine and education and clothing and housing. Funded by the Jewish Federation System across North America, who raised $1 billion, $1980. By the way, Golda Meir, that $90 million I told you, that was $1948. This was $1 billion in $1980 to save 1 million Jews who were able to come out of the Soviet Union. So lest you think, though, that this is only ancient times, you know this. It was our predecessors in this seat, some of you were there, who brought 300,000 Jews to Washington, D.C., just weeks after October 7th, and the largest gathering of Jews in America on what we call the front lawn of the United States, right in front of the Capitol, to openly and publicly declare our support and call for the support of the government and our public. And then we raised $908 million in emergency aid for Israel, one of the largest campaigns in history. And as you've already heard, have now created 141 Jewish security, professionally run Jewish security programs across America. My friends, these are the seats in which you are sitting. This is the history that has been handed down to us. This is the transmission of leadership. When Moses encountered God at the burning bush, God called him out of the bush and said, "Moshe, Moshe." And then he said, "Remove your sandals from your feet, because hamakom asher ata omed alav admat kodeshu, the place on which you are standing is holy ground." My friends, this may be a ballroom at the Hyatt Regency in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but this is admat kodeshu. This is holy ground, because these seats in which you're sitting, these name tags that you put on, assume a role in the transmission of leadership from the generation that brought the refugees to Palestine, that raised the funds for the arms that created Israel, that brought 50,000 from Yemen and 1 million from the Soviet Union and more. So what is this time in which we are now the leaders? Well, it's not all a pretty picture, as we know and as we've heard. And I believe understanding our times begins with saying out loud the names that we must never, ever forget. These are the victims of the shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue, October 27th, 2018. My friends, it was only 7.5 years ago. This is in our generation of leadership. Joyce Feinberg, Richard Gottfried, Rose Mallinger, Jerry Rabinowitz, Cecil Rosenthal, David Rosenthal, Bernice and Sylvan Simon, Daniel Stein, Melvin Wax, and Irving Younger. May their memories be a blessing. May their names never, ever be forgotten by the leaders of this great Jewish community, this great Jewish Federation system. And just a short time later, we lost Lori Gilbert Kay to a murder in Poway at the Chabad of Poway on April 27th, 2019. May her memory be a blessing. And you know who this is. This is Sarah Milgram and Yarom Lashinsky, a blessed memory, gunned down in Washington, D.C. Yes, they worked at the Israeli embassy, but they weren't gunned down because they were employees of the Israeli embassy. They were gunned down because they were a young couple who attended a Jewish event at a Jewish museum in our nation's capital. May their memories be a blessing. And this is Karen Diamond. Karen Diamond was murdered on the streets of Boulder, Colorado, for having the audacity to hold up a sign with others who were also injured, remembering the hostages that were being held in Gaza. This is the synagogue in Jackson, Mississippi last winter that was burned almost to the ground. Remember its name, Beth Israel Congregation in Jackson, Mississippi. And yes, this is Temple Israel in West Bloomfield, March 12th of this year, where we came within inches, the worst terrorist attack on American soil since 9/11. The 123 preschool children, including the children of members of this young leadership cabinet. And by the way, this was just 2 weeks ago on the Upper West Side of New York. 2 people stabbed, one having just left the Jewish Center on the Upper West Side. And of course, it's not just in America, this time in which we live. This is Sydney, Australia, last Hanukkah. The terrible terrorist attack there. We should remember their names too. Tanya Tretiak, Marika Pagani, Adam Smith, Peter Meager, Dan Elkayam, Matilda Britvan, Boris Gurman, Sophia Gurman, Alex Kleitman, Tibor Weitzen, Boris Tetleroyd, Edith Brutman, Reuven Morrison, Rabbi Yaakov Levitin, Rabbi Eli Schlanger. May their memories be a blessing, and may their names never be forgotten. And yes, this is Nero's, and next to it is Nova. May we never forget what happened on October 7th, 2023. And these, my friends, are just 4 of the amazing, resilient hostages who, after being held captive in Gaza for hundreds of days, emerged to be symbols of what it means to be resilient and to bring back to life Jews who have been held captive in our own time. And of course, we remember all those who did not come out of captivity. This is Avi Natan Or, Guy Gilboa Dalal, Evyatar David, and Noah Argamani speaking to us at last year's General Assembly in Washington, D.C. They inspire us, and they show us the transition from the horror that we suffered to the responsibilities we have, not only to protect our community, which we've been discussing this morning, and we will continue to discuss, but also to inspire and to connect and to engage. And so here's something else. Here's something else that we're doing together. We're bringing volunteers from all over North America to Israel to engage with the land, to re-engage the land. We've been through several years now. It's been hard to travel to Israel. The Consul General told us this. Between COVID and between October 7th and the wars and the security challenges and the financial challenges, it's been hard for people to get to Israel. And now we need to bring everyone in our communities to Israel. We have an opportunity to do that. You're going to learn more about Volunteer in Israel. And these are our children at Jewish camp. We need to double the number of children in Jewish camp. We need to double the number of children who are going to Jewish education. These are the leadership responsibilities of our moment. Protect our community, engage our community, educate our community, embrace Israel, and love our people. Admat Kodesh Hu. This is holy ground we're on, and these are holy responsibilities. There's a great story in the Torah. We read it a couple weeks ago in our weekly Torah readings. You know that after 40 years of wandering in the desert, the tribes of Israel approached the Promised Land. And as they were about to cross, 2 of the tribes, the tribe of Reuben and the tribe of Gad, their profession, if you will, was they were shepherds and they were cattlemen. They had huge flocks. And the land on the eastern side of the Jordan River, if you can picture, look at your map, was particularly fertile and good land for the flocks to graze and the herds to be fed. And so they went to Moses and they said, we'd like to stay on the eastern side of the Jordan when everybody else crosses over into the land of Israel, into the promised land, where we knew that there would be wars and that there would be challenges in order to settle and to conquer the land. And what does Moses say to Reuben, the tribes of Reuben and the troops of God? He says, "Ha'achechem yavo lamilchama ve'atem teshvu po." Would your brothers go to war while you sit here? Will you let them go ahead? Of course, their answer was no. The tribes of Reuben and Gad said, no, we'll go first. We'll leave our families here. We'll go first. We'll lead the wars, and only when our community is settled will we come back and build our permanent habitations here. I don't need to ask the members of the National Young Leadership Cabinet what your answer to the question will be when we ask, would we let others go first and not follow? We will go first. That's what the whole point of the National Young Leadership Cabinet is. That's why you're here. So whether it's our security challenges or the anti-Semitism challenges in our community that we heard just before I got up here, or travel to Israel as the Consul General encouraged us to do, or our children's education and identity building and connection to the Jewish people through camps and schools, whatever is your passion, whatever is your place, or make it all of those things together. We lead. The torch has been passed. Leadership has been transmitted to you in this room, in this holy ground. I showed you the picture of the Soviet Jewry movement, the Soviet Jews coming off the plane. So you know that the movement to save Soviet Jews was a long struggle, a political struggle in many ways. And it was led by young leaders. In fact, there was a group called the Student Struggle for Soviet Jewry. And they were organizing, they were whipping the community. They went to the elders of the community and said, we have to do more, we're not doing enough. And one of the things they did was they would hold protests outside the Soviet embassy in Washington and also outside the Soviet mission to the United Nations in New York. And at one of those famous protests outside the Soviet mission in New York, they hired a young singer, his name was Shlomo Carlebach, to perform. On that occasion in 1964, I think it was, in the spring, April of 1964, outside the UN, he performed a new song that he wrote. Anybody know what it is? You ever heard of Am Yisrael Chai? Shlomo Carlebach penned Am Yisrael Chai to be the anthem of the Soviet Jewry movement. But of course, it's become not just the anthem of the Soviet Jewry movement, it's become the anthem of the Jewish people. And why is that? Why is that? What does Am Yisrael Chai mean? What does Am Yisrael mean? People of Israel. Listen, if we were talking about the state of Israel, we'd say Medinat Yisrael Chai, right? If we were talking about the land of Israel, we'd say Eretz Yisrael Chai, the land of Israel lives. But that's not what Shlomo Carlebach said. Shlomo Carlebach saying Am Yisrael Chai, the people of Israel live, the Jewish people live. We pass the leadership from generation to generation, from hand to hand, and we tackle what is in front of us so that we survive and we grow and we flourish and we thrive. And that's what every single one of you is going to be doing in your role as members of this great National Young Leadership Cabinet as we confront the challenges of today. So just as Shlomo Carlebach sang outside the UN in the struggle for Soviet Jewry, today let's say Am Yisrael Chai, with our struggle to protect our Jewish community, to fight anti-Semitism, to protect our children, to lift up our children into the future, to engage with Israel, and to embrace the entirety of the Jewish people at this incredible moment. Please join with me. Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai, Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu 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 Chai, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai.
Please welcome back Stephanie Schumann and Stephen Palitz.
There we go. Throughout the retreat, we encourage you to be fully present. Introduce yourself to someone you haven't met. Ask thoughtful questions. Share your ideas. Be generous with your encouragement and open to learning from others. Some of the most meaningful moments won't happen during a plenary or a breakout. They'll happen in conversations over coffee, during meals, or walking between sessions. And if history has any indication, a few great ideas will probably be born while everyone is trying to find said coffee. Every interaction at this retreat is an opportunity to lead with integrity, humility, compassion, and courage. We all have the ability to create an environment where others feel welcome and inspired.
Where are my lines?
Hold, please.
Ben, can you fix this, please?
Should we start doing our dance?
Am Yisrael Chai.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Damar Markowitz. I'm a third year from New York.
And I'm Natan Milgram. I'm a third year from South Palm Beach County, Florida. And we are your 2026-2027 INO vice chairs.
When you all walked into the room earlier, you should have received a passport, or there might be one on your table. At this time, please open up your passport to see if there is a boarding pass inside.
Sleeper agents, it's your time to activate. Please walk around the room, find the people with the boarding passes, and escort them onto the stage. You can then return to your positions Move quickly because the boarding doors will be closing. You want me to check this side? You check this side. Can we see your passport? Yeah, come on up here. Let's see your passport, sir. Stand in the row. Yep. Let's go. Thank you for joining us on stage. Before you can travel anywhere, we're going to have to ask you some questions. As you know, JF&A takes security very seriously.
Very seriously.
It is important that you answer these questions honestly and to the best of your ability, or you may be removed from the stage for further questioning.
What is your name?
Rebecca.
Which federation are you from?
Chicago.
Where was last year's study mission?
Athens.
What's your name?
Joel.
Which federation are you from?
Minneapolis.
How many people can go on cabinet mission this year?
I'm a first year. What do you want from me?
I don't know if I like that answer. Unruly passengers tomorrow.
What's your name?
Joshua.
Which federation are you from?
Indianapolis. Yes.
How many people can go on cabinet mission this year?
As many as we want.
Wrong. Stand back in line.
Let's see. What's your name?
Evan.
What is your favorite color?
Blue.
What did you eat for breakfast?
Something that's not kosher.
I don't know.
What is your name?
Stacy.
Which year are you on cabinet?
Crew 22.
Have you ever traveled to Canada?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's see. What is your name?
Still Rebecca.
Still Rebecca? Good, we got her. What's your name?
Josh.
Josh. Josh. When was your last trip to Europe, Josh?
April.
And did you pick out your outfit yourself, or did someone pick it out for you?
I believe you picked it out for me.
This just got awkward.
What's your name?
Jennifer.
And which federation are you from?
Columbus.
Why are you on stage?
Because there was a boarding pass in my passport.
I see. Do you want to know where mission is?
Yes, I do.
Also, go Bucks. Damara, I'm pretty sure these people are okay. It doesn't seem like any of them are a security threat.
And they really want to know where mission is.
Yeah, they really do. I guess we can tell them, but we definitely need to bring a few more of them up for questioning first. Ben Schidler told us we have an hour for this, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sleeper agents, please stand again. Help us find the people with a red sticker on their passport.
Just kidding. You aren't standing up to find more people.
You're standing up to dance. Because 2027 Cabinet Study Mission will take us to
Israel!
You're probably wondering about when registration will open so that you can set a calendar reminder to sign up right away before the website crashes.
Yes, because as many of you know, mission is strictly limited to...
Wait, I'm getting a message about the limit on mission participants.
Oh, what does it say? Can we go from, maybe we'll go from 120 to 125 this year, get a few more people?
No, it's saying there is no limit.
No limit, so everyone in cabinet, including the first years, can go on mission?
That's right. There will be a sign-up deadline, but as long as you register before the deadline, you're in.
Well, what if my kid spills a glass of water on my laptop and I can't register on time? Then what happens?
The registration window is going to be open for almost a month, so no last-minute excuses.
Incredible. We get to bring all of our chevra to Israel for the mission of a lifetime? This is going to be huge.
Yes, everyone can come, and you'll be receiving an email shortly with mission details and FAQs. Keep an eye on those inboxes.
And to the class of 2025, we haven't forgotten about your canceled mission last year. There is a special experience being planned for you in addition to the official study mission. Keep an eye on your inboxes.
We have U.S. Israel pins and Canada Israel pins on your way out, so please make sure that you grab them from the amazing staff as you head out to lunch, and the next session will begin promptly at 2 o'clock.
Go have lunch.
It's a beautiful day and I can't stop myself from smiling. If I drink and then I'm buying, and I know there's no denying that it's a beautiful day. The sun is up and the music's playing, and even if it started raining, you won't hear this boy complaining, 'cause I'm glad that you're the one who got away. 'Cause if you ever think I'll take up my time with thinking of our breakup, then you've got another thing coming your way. 'Cause it's a beautiful